Hi, I'm Mark Scher. I'm the CEO and founder of Encompass Life and the host of the Encompassing Life Podcast. Today we have Dr. Samuel Rinehart, and he is with Principled Living Tonal Chiropractic in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We share some common interests in some outdoor activities, and I'm curious to hear about what he does in his chiropractic and in his chiropractic world, and what drove him into doing health services. Dr.
Yeah.
Samuel, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, sir. So every chiropractor I've spoken with has had some type of a pivotal moment in their life where they chose chiropractic because it's not something you would just like, I think I'm gonna be an airline pilot or something as a kid.
Yeah.
So what had you choose chiropractic?
I used chiropractic like most people do as a kid. You get a crick in your neck and you go and you get cracked a couple times, and that was the extent of it. Never had a bad experience, but we used it as a symptomatic tool. Then through my own experience with depression, brain fog, and spinal cord trauma, I found quite a bit of relief through functional medicine. So changing with my diet and lifestyle, taking out gluten and dairy really helped the brain fog, helped me want to do that for other people. So I got into chiropractic simply because I wanted to be a functional medicine doctor. I wanted to call for my blood labs and do my supplements and things like that, and that would seem like a good way to be a doctor. Well, once I got to chiropractic school, I found out there's a lot more to it than that, and I became obsessed with the big idea of chiropractic, which is essentially just that your brain runs your entire body through the brain and spinal cord, and that connects to every single cell, tissue, and organ in your body. So when I found that out, I thought, man, we better make sure that the power, the connection between the brain and your stomach is restored before we throw a bunch of supplements at you and things like that. So now here we are with a very chiropractic first, and especially our niche chiropractic of tonal chiropractic. We don't crack, we don't pop. It's the most research validated and reproducible form. We get the brain talking to the body, and then as needed, we implement lifestyle change, supplements, things like that to get to the root cause. And our main bread and butter, we specialize in headache, migraine, joint pain, and brain fog.
So you don't do any pop, step, crackle, and pop.
So I can do that. I'm fully trained in that. What I tell people is it's the assessment that is most important. Determining where to adjust and where not to adjust is always the most important thing. Then to make the correction, it can be anywhere from a pressure point with the finger using this FDA approved instrument called the Integrator, which is what I use most of the time, or I can go ahead and do the manual
Mm-hmm.
manipulation. Most of the time, we use our instrument. It's got a vibration that is tuned to more effectively reconnect the brain to the body. And it's easier on my shoulders, my joints. It's just a faster, more pleasant experience. But to answer your question, no, you do not need to be popped or cracked to get a chiropractic adjustment or to reconnect your brain to your body. You have all the muscle necessary to align your spine. When we have these misalignments, it's not just like muscles too weak, muscles too tight, we got to go exercise. It's clearly a miscommunication between the brain and the body. And how I describe it, like, you can all relate to, is walking down a set of stairs. You'd swear there's one more step, and then your foot hits the ground, and then you are complete. Your world is rocked. It's like, nope, the staircase is done. That is what we call nerve interference or subluxation in a nutshell. Your brain thinks your blood pressure is 120 over 80, and really it's not. It's too high, it's too low, and there's just a miscommunication. So when we clear that up, then the communication is restored, health comes back, and you start to heal and function like you did when you were a kid.
So what is an integrator?
Integrator. So that is just simply the tool. It's a handheld instrument. There's a picture of it and a video on our website if you want to see, but it looks like a mini pogo stick, spring-loaded instrument that is
Oh
tuned
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
the frequency of a tuning fork. And what that does, it puts a vibration into the spinal cord, and that is the most effective way we found at getting the nerve to reconnect, your brain to reconnect to the body. It's often confused with the activator, which looks very similar, and a lot of chiropractors use the
That
activator,
rattle, yeah, the
handheld.
gun thing, right, right.
Yeah, the pop, 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 and it's a thump, but it's a very different application and different function.
Does it have multiple frequencies it tunes?
No, that's a great question. I kind of expected that. So what we're doing here is it is tuned to 64 hertz.
Uh-huh.
64 hertz is a multiple of 8, but what our neuroscience shows us is that when the brain disconnects from the body, it defaults to a multiple of 8 or 64 hertz. That's like a disconnected nerve frequency. So our tool is tuned to 64 hertz, and when we send that in, it jams the frequency on your spinal cord and allows your brain to reset. What we want to do is we want to reset so the brain can go back to whatever frequency it should be. It just should not be at 64 hertz. That's the sign that it has been disconnected and no longer accurately communicating with the body. So it is really more of like a jamming the signal so your brain can then recalibrate to whatever it needs to be, rather than me as the doctor saying, "Oh, I think it should be higher. Let me zap you until it goes up or calm it down." And I kind of call it playing God with physiology, saying, "I want blood pressure higher, so I'll just do this to make you higher or slower." Like I don't like that. That's frightening to me to take that level of control. I want your brain back in control of your body so that that's where health comes from. The
Huh.
best doctor in the world is that intelligence, that God-given intelligence inside of you.
Interesting. Yeah, it's the first time I've heard of this particular way of doing it. It's really, really interesting. I've done a lot
It
of
is.
chiropractic. This is the
Yeah.
first time I've heard of this one.
Yeah. And this is essentially like where chiropractic started and the root. We just have a little bit different application of it and understanding of it now. But chiropractic has always been, I mean, founded on tone. That's what the founder of chiropractic said. This is founded on tone, the actual frequency of the spinal cord. I mean, get into quantum physics and the holographic model. Like they were describing this 100 years before their time. And you had Nikola Tesla discovering the power grid and electricity and all that. These guys down in Davenport, Iowa, were understanding the quantum physics of the body and how your body actually communicates based on a holographic principle.
I love it.
So, yeah,
Something else.
yeah.
Great getting to know you here, dude. So, so this thing puts out, is it electrical, the one that puts out a tone? Or
No, no, no. Your nerve tissue, all nerve tissue is piezoelectric. So, just like keyboard,
do you have one of the devices?
I got it across the office. I could go grab it and show you. But
I'll pause.
yeah,
Okay, so we're back, and he has got his device and a model of a spine here as well.
yes. Okay. So first off, yeah, this is the integrator. It looks a lot like what you might have seen as the activator. That's a whole different approach. But this is a spring. It also has, you probably can't see, but the head of it will spin when it comes out. So it twists, which is a concept of torque. It's a whole different thing. But when this goes off, there's a vibration in here at 64 hertz, and that vibration gets transmitted into the spinal cord. So I would just be placing this along the spine.
Uh-huh.
The whole point here is to transmit a vibration through the bone into the spinal cord. And what I was getting at is this does not produce electricity. This is just a mechanical vibration. And you pair that with consciousness and intent. But all nerve tissue, these nerve roots coming out the side, and the actual spinal cord is piezoelectric or piezoelectric.
Hmm.
And what that means is like a button on the keyboard, pressure changes electricity. This is a piezo switch.
Right.
Nerve tissue is piezoelectric. When we press on it, it changes the electrical flow through that nerve tissue. That is why the alignment of your spine is critical if you want to have proper brain body connection. So, kind of
Okay.
just to recap, that vibration going in puts pressure on the spinal cord, allows the spinal cord to reconnect. Then your brain talks to your muscles, and your muscles realign your spine. So that's where we get spinal alignment, but we also get improved connection to the heart or to the lungs or better brain body connection through a vibration going into the spinal cord.
So if somebody gets in, so I'll bring my own crap to this. Had an accident on a knee board one number of years ago. Took Went from like 50 mile an hour to zero, and took it all on my tailbone.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So ruptured disc, bulging disc, all that type of stuff. My body was contorted where it looked, made like an S curve in my spinal column. So
Yeah.
how do you how do you that little frequency repair something that has that kind of damage to it?
Yeah. So the reason I think what you're talking about is like this would be alignment from the front. We should have a straight alignment.
Right.
We get side to side. That would be
Yep.
like a scoliosis, a
Right.
big curve, right?
Right.
Tailbone's down here. So you hit your tailbone, and through the process, a scoliosis was discovered. In your case, you don't know how much of that curve was there before, unless you had x-rays. You knew I had a straight spine, and then this happened. But regardless, you were in this contorted position, very likely because it was a compensation mechanism. You had trauma to the spinal cord, and
Right.
then your brain was doing just the best it could to position yourself in a way that had the least amount of pain and least amount of pressure on the spinal cord as it was healing. To answer your question, like how could you go from having a curve like this to straightening up with a simple vibration? It's because it's your muscles and your body that would do that. So let's just say right after the injury, you're in a lot of pain, you're standing crooked, take the x-ray, and you look like this.
Right.
If I could like shoot you up on morphine and have you not feel anything and just say, "Hey, Mark, just bend to the other side, bend this way." We could do this and take another picture, and then this part's nice and straight. I mean, you got all the muscle you need to straighten that up. It's not a muscle strength issue. It's just your body was holding you like this because that was we call it antalgic position, or that was just what you could do to get out of pain or feel the most
Right.
comfortable.
Right.
So what we're doing in correcting that type of pain and that kind of a curve is reconnecting your brain to your body. And then time is an important part too. As the tissue heals, as the brain reconnects to the muscles, that's when things align gently and in a corrective manner, a permanent manner, to get that spinal alignment back as much as you can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, somewhat. And
So it's,
and while you're doing that, like, are there exercises for the individual to do as
yeah.
well? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in an acute situation like that, we wouldn't just go through a bunch of exercises. The last thing you need is physical therapy when you're very in pain and having a herniated disc, for example.
Mm.
But we call it neurospinal rehab. So we have specific stretches and exercises that complement the neurological correction we do in the office.
Mm.
So it's kind of a three-prong approach. We got to reconnect the brain to the body. And then we also need to address imbalances in your soft tissues. Because if you had been hunched for years, you're going to have really tight tissues on the front and maybe lengthened and weak muscles on the back. So we do specific stretches that then pair up with the neurological correction. So we actually see as much correction as we can on a follow-up x-ray.
Awesome. So let's take it to a practical application, or
Yep.
or somebody that you've worked with, who's come in with a really severe issue. And can you explain their, like, what they came in with, how long you worked with them, and what the results are?
Yeah, I mean, we have it's on our website. We have a testimony page, and that's just a sample of the people that were willing to share their story. One that comes in mind, kind of really similar to what you just described, is well, his name's Mo. If you look him up, there's two testimonies on our website. One of them says canceled surgery, another one, but he was getting epidural injections in his lower spinal cord, like a woman would get during
Right.
pregnancy. He's
Yeah.
getting epidural injections just for the pain because he had such pressure on his lower spine. He had an MRI and he had a surgery scheduled. He used to be an arborist, so he was climbing up trees, trimming trees, and his back would spaz up, 30, 60 feet up. So he quit that profession. He was on the schedule for surgery. We get him reset, and he immediately feels his muscles change in his low back. And so this was one where we had symptomatic and functional change right away. His muscles started to communicate with his spine, and the alignment changed so much that he was able to like actually function. He canceled surgery, and he's doing carpentry now. So, I mean, it is. He told me the medical doctor that took his MRI and did his report, when he came back, the guy was just like jaw on the ground. He's like, I see your MRI. You had constriction of your spinal cord and now you're standing up straight and you're telling me you didn't do your epidural injections? Like, how did this happen? And that's just the
Wow.
power of the body to heal.
That's amazing. And was his more acute or chronic when you met him?
When it was chronic, you don't just get surgery scheduled overnight. Like he had been doing, PT and pain, like doing everything he could for a long time, and then the epidural injections, and then the MRI, and then scheduled surgery. we finally got to him then. And long story short, he canceled surgery and he's working as a carpenter.
Wow. From working cutting down trees, working with wood after they're cut down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very amazing. And how long have you been practicing in Minnesota?
I've been studying this for 10 years. I've been practicing since 2017. That's when I graduated. So coming up, 10 years. We relocated shortly after opening, but we've always been here in Minnesota. But practicing as a chiropractor since 2017.
Well, you're the first person I've heard people use the action. You see yours is the integrator,
Activator.
the
Yeah.
actuator. Yep.
Yeah.
I've
So
heard,
think of it, people get it mixed up. So integrator, this integrates the all the benefits of a tool and a hand adjustment to kind of make the best of both worlds. That's why, this is just it's faster than my hand could ever move and more gentle, and then the vibration comes in. So you can't get the best of both worlds. That's why it's called the integrator. It integrated hand and tool adjustments into one.
chooses how I miss that in other chiropractors. Is it
Yeah.
common or?
It's becoming more common. Tonal chiropractic, like that is a model of chiropractic. I could break it down. There's three models of chiropractic. There's like a segmental approach, and that's what most chiropractors do. They'll feel with their hands and they'll adjust with their hands and bill insurance. It's kind of a one visit at a time, come back if you hurt, that type of model. There's a postural model. So they take x-rays of your spine and look at the curves, and based off that x-ray, they just try to push the curve straight with traction devices and thumper guns and different things just to try to push it straight to get correction. You're kind of fighting against the brain in many ways. You're just playing tug of war. Tonal chiropractic is I'm assessing the tone of your spinal cord. I look at your spinal cord as like the vocal cord of your brain. It's the tail that hangs off here, and that's how your body communicates. So we're checking for the correct tone or frequency in the spinal cord. That's my assessment. And then to correct that, this vibration going into the spinal cord is how we correct that. And that's the tonal chiropractic model. And there's a couple different like techniques that work off that model. That's how we choose to practice, and we see that we get, I think, better results than I
Hmm.
was getting with my school and previous things I had tried.
Gotcha. So how long does an appointment last with you?
I mean, it can take anywhere, like we have you check in, do some range of motion exercises, but it takes just a few minutes to be actually checked and assessed. And the cool part is you don't get any better results if you stay longer because the healing actually happens between your adjustments. Kind of like music really happens from the space between the notes. If it's just one tone, that's not music, that's just a tone. But when you pause and go, and that's where music happens. So when we correct the brain body connection and your body has this new communication with itself, the time between that adjustment and the next one, or just really the rest of your life, that's when you're healing. So you don't get better results if you just like spend a half hour with me. I mean, you can hang out if you want, but we just do as much as we can with each appointment, and then we check back later when your body's ready for another upgrade.
Interesting. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it, man. And you got a lot of passion around it, which is really cool. So
It's just really getting into the public and trying to hit that critical mass, get people to understand
that
that.
you don't have to get your neck wrenched and all
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to do that, but even bigger than that is the big idea. Like your brain controls your body, and stresses of life overwhelm us to the point where we get miscommunication. So this week we're talking about how most people see a specialist for their eyes, a specialist for their teeth, and yet they've probably lived 20, 30, 40 years and never seen a specialist for their brain and spinal cord. They've never had a legitimate x-ray or posture analysis to check their brain. And I would argue that's even more important because it's my
Yeah.
brain that runs my eyes, my brain that controls the bacteria and the flora in my mouth. But like, do it all. Get your eyes checked, get your ears checked, get your teeth clean. But your brain and spinal cord, that is what I'm living life through. That's how I'm understanding you. That's my
Yeah.
essence of humanity.
Yeah. 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 Love the way you
So
said
we just
that
want
too.
people to get checked, see what's going on, and then prevent the walker and the cane and the kind of miserable last couple decades of life,
Yeah.
or spinal surgery when you're 40, and it's just so much of that can be prevented.
Wow. Unique. Great hearing you say all this, man. Really cool. So does insurance cover your adjustments as well?
That really depends on each individual plan. What we do is we check insurance. It's a two visit process. First visit, you come in, we do a consultation, digital full spine x-rays, 30 minutes. It's pretty quick. Leave your insurance card, and then in between your first and second visit, we'll check your insurance. I'm going to mark up the x-rays, make a plan, and on that second visit, we sit down and discuss what your goals are, what my findings are, really ask you, what do you want to accomplish? And then based on that, we can give you as best we can an estimate for, hey, if we build insurance, this is their contribution. Or, hey, it's the beginning of the year and you've got a high deductible, so there's really not much that's going to help there. And then we've got cash options, but we just lay it out for whatever makes most sense for you.
Awesome. Love it. How big is your practice now?
As far as like square footage or how many people we see or like
both.
So it's not a large space. We're about a 1,300 square foot space right off the highway. We're located, have another chiropractor right down the hallway from me. Dentist and orthodontist right here. It's a nice space right off 169 if you're familiar with the area. It's only 1,300 square feet. I mean, it's a rather small footprint. We have my office, one exam room, and then an open room where I can have 3 different people at one time. You probably get this, the collective consciousness and just energy, all that stuff.
Yep.
But there's no wearing gowns. We don't have skin showing. It's very private. And what I'm trying to do is give your body a chance to rest in between adjustments. So I'll go to table 1, do an adjustment, then go to table 2 and table 3. And then that person on table 1 gets just a minute to just process that reconnection before we come back to see if we can help more. But as far as like clientele, I mean, like we're still growing. We've got space to grow, but we'll do 70 to 100 visits a week in our mostly 3 days that we see a lot of our people in. So,
gotcha. Awesome. I love what you're doing, man. So, best way for people to get in touch with you?
I mean, we have a lot of great information on our website. It's principledlivingmn.com. So hopefully get the spelling, get that in the show notes here. But just give us a call. You can reach out through text, email, give us a call. If you're interested, we'll connect and we'll make it work, or we'll help find you somebody in your area. Happy to do that. We have a network of other like-minded practices, and we'd be happy to help.
Have anybody in Ocala, Florida?
And where?
Ocala, Florida.
Ocala, Florida. We have a database, and then also with the right key terms, we can, Google is helpful too to figure out who's mentioning this type of chiropractic on their website. A quick look at a website, we can get a pretty good idea for how somebody practices.
Awesome. I always end the podcast with one particular question. And that question is, what do you love about life?
Love about life is we have free choice. And that is, I think, the biggest thing that God gave us is like we can choose to love or not love. We can choose life and blessing or death and cursing. And what we do, as far as what we're talking about here, your life and your decisions, that's the 90%. It's the 10% is the genetics.
Right.
Bruce Lipton showed epigenetics. I mean, roughly. 90% is how you think, how you move, what you eat, what you do with your life. Let's just say 10% or less is what you got from your parents.
Yep.
So this baloney about heart disease when you're 60, like if you premeditate it, if you believe it, you think it, like you can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's dangerous. So know that you have a choice. What you do, you get one body, take care of it, and do what you can to add life, add years to your life and life to your years.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lipton too. Yeah. And he proved DNA was malleable, and basically it was storing the information of traumas, and the traumas would be passed down from generation to generation, which goes into scriptures, and the sins of the parents are visited upon the children for 4 generations.
Yeah. It's spiritual and it's like physical in that DNA transference.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Samuel, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate getting to know you. And maybe we can meet up sometime and go do some outdoor activities. That'd be great.
That would be great. All right.
Thank you, sir.